What's up, YouTubers? Hardworker12 with you here today with a 2019 Dodge Challenger RT. This car interests me because it's old. The Challenger made its original debut for the 2008 model year, and they haven't changed much about it since. They have updated the styling and the powertrains a little bit, but it's still on the same chassis, same platform, and it looks about the same, but in 2018, it had its best sales year ever. And the Ford Mustang sales were down 7.4% in 2018. The Camaro sales were down 25%, and Challenger sales were up 3% to an all-time high of 66,716 units. And today I'm going to try to figure out why this car remains so popular. This particular example, like I said, it's a 2019 RT. It has the 375 horsepower engine, 8-speed automatic, and it has cold weather group and driver convenience group for a total MSRP of about $40,000. So we're going to go over the styling on the car. I'm going to show you the engine. I'm going to spend about 8 seconds talking about practicality. We're going to look at the interior features and take it for a drive. Let's go. Now, styling-wise, I have to make an admission. When the Challenger first came out, I really didn't like it. And as time went on, I don't know if it's the subtle tweaks and improvements that they've made to the styling of the vehicle. I don't know if it's these fancy LED taillights that I really like. I really don't know what it is. But I have decided that I really like the way that this car works. And I think I might have to let Jeremy Clarkson explain his feelings on the Bentley Continental GT, because they pretty much sum up how I feel about this car.
I hate the Bentley Continental. I hate the Bentley Continental. I hate the Bentley Continental. God, I love the Bentley Continental. I don't understand that, because they haven't changed the styling much.
Not since, I mean, it's been around a while now, but
then you just woke up one morning and I went, that looks really...
So yeah, almost overnight, this became a car that I really like the look of. And I would even go so far as to say I like the look of it better than a new Mustang or a new Camaro, and that may be one of the reasons why people are buying them more. Now, this particular car is equipped with the Rhombi illuminated air catcher slash headlamp, which is this piece right here. As you can see, that's an empty hole that goes into the motor to give it more cooling. Let's have a look under the hood. Okay, so looking under the hood, first of all, this air vent here is actually a vent. It's not fake. If we open the hood, it doesn't really go anywhere. It just gives fresh air to the motor. Same thing with those Rhombi air vents. They seem to just kind of push cool air into the engine compartment, which is not a bad thing, but doesn't seem to be designed with any kind of ram air intake in mind. This is the intake box, but I don't see that that air intake in the headlight really hooks up to anything. So this is the legendary Mopar HEMI 5.7 liter V8. This car has 375 horsepower, 410 torques. If you don't know, hemispherical combustion chambers is what HEMI is named after. There's a lot of different vehicles out there that have hemispherical combustion chambers, but Chrysler owns the trademark to just call it HEMI. So there's your motor. That thing's got a HEMI. And it sounds great. Let's take a quick listen. The trunk is okay. The back seat sucks. Fuel economy is not good, and it's even worse because even with the car locked, somebody could still open your fuel filler cap and steal gas if you have any left. Okay, so let's talk about the interior, and right off the bat, I have a little bit of a criticism because this car does not have the upgraded 8.4-inch Uconnect screen. It just has the standard one. And that means you don't get Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. If you want those features, you have to get the Plus package for $3,000, which includes the bigger Uconnect screen and a few other things. But, you know, for a 2019 model car, to not get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto when its MSRP is almost $40,000, that's a little crazy to me. I don't really like that. For a couple of years now, certain things, specifically like I have heated seats and a heated steering wheel in this car, but I have to go into the touchscreen to turn those on. That's becoming more common, but still not my favorite thing. But, you know, overall, the touchscreen's kind of fine. I'll show you the backup camera. It's not the highest quality unit, but it is there, and as I turn the wheel, it kind of shows me my projected path. It's funny, it's not in widescreen, it's in 4:3 ratio, not 16.9. But anyway, there's your backup camera. Some of the things I like about this car, this little center screen here has kind of some cool stuff in it. If I go down, I can very clearly see my tire pressure on the vehicle. That's good. This is cool. It has a built-in 0 to 60 timer. It says not ready now because I'm in park, but every time you're at a dead stop, you can time yourself from 0 to 60 on this car. And according to it, its best time is 5.4 seconds, and my last time was 10 seconds. So I was not really going for it there, but that's a cool feature nonetheless, even if it encourages you to potentially get more speeding tickets. Right here, fuel economy gauge, looks kind of cool. I currently have a range of 222 miles. And then more fuel economy, trip information, radio information. So anyway, there's some cool stuff in that center screen. I like the way the gauges look. You know, I'm not a huge fan of the new all-digital dashboard, so these analog gauges suit me just fine. And you can hear the motor. Sounds fantastic. So yeah, I like the gauge cluster. I like that center screen. This one works okay, just a couple little kind of things I don't love about it. Down here you have all your climate control, you know, temperature, fan speed, and then you do have volume knobs and tuning knobs for the radio. Mounted a little lower than I'd like, but kind of based on the layout of the cockpit, pretty easy to get to. One interesting thing about Chrysler products in general, so you have these buttons here, which are actually for this screen up top. I have all this here, that's for the cruise control. This is for some extra features this car doesn't have. Here's my Bluetooth, pick up the phone, voice control, hang up the phone. If I want to adjust the radio or playlist on my iPhone or whatever it is, I got to use these buttons that are behind the steering wheel. On the left side, they kind of change, you know, it's either going to change my radio frequency or song on the playlist or whatever it is. On the right side, it changes volume. So that's a little strange. Another quirk that I kind of discovered on accident with this car, so this is your blinkers exactly as you would expect it to be, but if you accidentally push down on this, you spray and wipe your windshield. So that's the way that you do that. And I've had this car for about a day and a half, driving it around, and I have hit this voice command button more times than I would care to admit on accident. So slight ergonomic flaw there, but I'm sure these are things that you would get used to if it was your car. And the buttons behind the wheel to do the radio volume and things like that, that's probably something that you'd really get used to and then be sad if you switched to another kind of car and it didn't have it. But other than that, the seats are pretty comfortable in this car. The kind of blind spots are sort of big, but this particular package does have the blind spot monitor. That's that little triangle thing in the rearview mirror that you can see. So that is an option, but this car has it. That's part of the driver convenience group. So anyway, let's see just how convenient this puppy dog is and take it out for a drive. All right, so driving the Challenger. Now, this is a muscle car. So let's just get the important part out of the way first. Is this car fast? Not really. Not if you compare it to its rivals. I've driven a new Mustang. The current Mustang GT has a 460 horsepower engine. I've driven one of those. That thing is way faster than this Challenger is. Haven't driven the newest version of the Camaro. I think the last Camaro SS I drove was like a 2013, which had 426 horsepower, if my memory serves, and even that car, being 6 years old, was faster than this. More to the point, I had a 2010 Mustang GT, which was the last year of the old 4.6 liter engine. That only had 315 horsepower, 60 less than this Challenger has, and it felt about as fast as this Challenger does. And even more so, my current car, my 2017 WRX STI, which only has 305 horsepower, I think it feels in a straight line about as fast as the Challenger does. This is not really a fast car. Now, with that being said, this is available with different engines. You can get it, I think the SRT8's a 6.4 liter, and then you can get a couple of different supercharged versions of it. But it depends on how you measure horsepower, and I will demonstrate that right now. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now, I'm not flying, but this thing sounds fantastic. And by my count, there's 3 different ways to measure horsepower. You got brake horsepower, which is what all manufacturers advertise. You have wheel horsepower, which is what actually makes it to the drive wheels. And then you have ear horsepower. And when it comes to ear horsepower, this car's packing a pretty heavy wallop. It sounds great. So I really like the way the engine sounds, and frankly, that's a big part of it when you're talking muscle cars, because muscle cars are all about fun. It's fun to look at. It's fun to drive. It sounds loud. It gets attention. I mean, like I said, I had a Mustang GT. I love that car. It was just so much fun. Was it a great car? In some ways, yes, and in a lot of ways, no. And that's true of this car, too. I mean, the driving dynamics, the ride's a little stiffer than I expected on the highway. This is still based on the Chrysler LX platform, or LA or LF, LMFAO, whatever they call it these days. But basically, this is still built out of the bones of the Mercedes S-Class and E-Class from around the turn of the century. And for many years, I have felt that as far as the Dodge and Chrysler products, the cars go, the only ones worth buying were the ones built on this chassis, and I still believe that. Chrysler 300, Dodge Charger, Dodge Challenger are great cars, but this platform is showing its age. It is kind of starting to feel old. The ride could be a little bit better. Again, the handling's okay. It could be a little bit better. It doesn't feel like an all-new design. These days, when you drive a car that's a brand new design, if it's done well, it feels brand new. It feels like a step above what has come before it, and this just doesn't. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just not on the cutting edge of what it could be. A new Mustang drives better. A new Mustang handles better. It's faster. I don't think it looks quite as good, and that's something for me to say, because traditionally of the big 3 muscle cars, the Mustang's my favorite. I mean, I had one, but I think that within that nugget of information, that this is built on an old chassis and it's been in production for a long time, we can get back to my original question of why did this car experience a sales record last year, 10 years into its production? And I think the simple answer is Chrysler's doing the old American car thing, and they're just throwing cash on the hood. I was Googling 2019 Charger RT, doing research on it, and the first ad I got at one point, it was like from one of my local Dodge dealers, 37% off MSRP. 37%. That's probably why they sold as many as they did. It's an old platform, all their production costs are recouped, and they can afford to just put cheap leases, put cash on the hood, because at this point, the car doesn't cost them that much to build. And if that's the case, that's fine. And, if you have wanted a muscle car for a while, and you're looking for a good deal, maybe now is a great time for you to get into one of these cars, because it is a good car. I mean, there's things that I don't like about it, and I went over that in the video, but it looks great. The engine sounds great. You know, I'm saying it's not fast. It's fast enough. You're gonna have fun in this car. It's not slow either. It's just not as fast as a Mustang with 460 horsepower, a Camaro with 455. You know, those cars have more power. That's in black and white. You can read that. That's just a statistic. So that's not a surprise. But driving wise, the car's fine, looks great, sounds great. Oh. I love the transmission in this car. This has, Chrysler calls it the Torque Flight 8-speed. That's just their marketing. It's not any kind of Torque Flight engine or transmission, excuse me. This is the ZF, I believe it's the 8 HP automatic transmission that is used by everybody high-end. This transmission is used by Audi, it's used by Aston Martin, it's used by Jaguar, Land Rover, BMW uses it, Chevrolet used it in the C7 Camaro. I don't think they're using it in the C8. And it's a great transmission, it really is. So there's a lot to like about this car, there really is. And if you can get a great deal on one and you want one, more power to you, because buying a muscle car is a personal choice, and it's more about emotion than logic. Because logically, you wouldn't buy this car based on logic. But if you want one, and you've always wanted a muscle car, you've always wanted a Challenger, hey, maybe now's a great time to get one, because it looks like they're doing some good deals, and it's a cool car. And this one's actually for sale too. I think we're asking $29,998 or something for it. And it's got 13,000 miles, and the original MSRP was 40. So, I don't know. If you love this car, drop me a message. I've got this one, I've got a white one that still has the yellow chin bits, and I've got a red one, like a nice burgundy color. So anyway, cool car to drive, cool car in general. Right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take it on a fuel economy run. I do have a fuel economy loop that I do. This will be the third car that I take through it. The other cars I've taken through it were my Volkswagen Jetta Sportwagon TDI, which averaged 40.7 miles per gallon, and a modified Audi A4 with a K04 turbo, a 2004 model that averaged 27.1. I don't expect this car to hit those kind of numbers, but it'll probably be okay because it's slow driving, mostly on the highway. So let's do the fuel economy thing, and we'll be back. All right, so I am out doing my fuel economy run in this car, and what I'd like to point out there in the center information screen, it's telling me right now that it's running on 4 cylinders, which it does at sort of highway speeds at light throttle. I'm going to shut up a minute so you can listen to the motor. And if you give it a little bit of gas, it'll stay in 4-cylinder mode, and then you hit a threshold. You barely feel a little bump and the sound changes, so then you know that it's running on all 8. And then if I kind of get out of it, it drops back into 4-cylinder mode. So, you know, my fuel economy loop is primarily highway, so this car may actually do well here if it's running on 4 cylinders most of the time. And as you can see, I'm currently doing 64 miles an hour, and engine is lazily turning at about 1600 RPM maybe. So we'll see how this baby does. Okay, so as you can see maybe on the screen, I've done 44.9 miles on my fuel economy loop. The car said it averaged 28.3 miles per gallon, and per my receipt, I just filled it up. It took 1.221 gallons. Can I get that in there? 1.221. Come on, camera. 1.221 gallons. I topped it off before I left, and according to my calculator, this frickin' car got 36.77 miles per gallon, which is unbelievable. I'm shocked, actually, but I guess that multi-displacement system works. So there's your Dodge Challenger RTs. Slower than expected, better fuel economy than expected, looks great. Buy one if you like it. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Bye-bye.